Hello and welcome into another episode of the Fourth and Goal podcast, your second one in 2 days. For those of you who are watching, I'm your host, Drew, along with Rob. Rob, why don't you tell the people why we're here for a second time in 2 days?
Well, you know how it is, the NFL season, it's too short, but it is jam-packed. So earlier this week, we brought you our season recap, and now we're looking ahead to the playoffs. Let's go.
Yeah, we got a lot of playoff games. The scriptwriter's been working overtime to get this week in. Honestly, have you seen like the storylines going on? Like, they clearly designed this. I now know why the Lions lost to the Cowboys. They needed this to happen.
Oh, for sure. And this is how it's always been with the NFL. We know it's a scripted. It's like the WWE. Let's be real. We all think this is played out on the field with the gumption and guts and glory of our favorite players. But nah, it's been a bunch of New York scriptwriters, let's be honest.
Exactly. Hey. Some of them are from Poughkeepsie. Thank you very much.
That's still New York.
Just a different part of New York.
Oh, yeah. It's a whole different territory.
But yeah, so first, let's get into the news and notes. Obviously, we did a bunch of news and notes yesterday, so you can hear all about most of the coach firings and situations there and some of the injuries. But the big one today, one day after Black Monday, we had another coach firing, and this one a little surprising. Mike Vrabel out in Tennessee. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, honestly, I think this is not a good decision. I've liked Mike Vrabel. I liked him as a player. I think he's been a good, smart coach. We were talking about this yesterday. He's definitely a player's coach, right? I think he's a leader of men on a football field in that locker room. I don't think he necessarily has the best personnel to deal with. You had Derrick Henry clearly missed a step this year. Will Levis was a young rookie and then got hurt, on and off. Ryan Tannehill's at the end of his kind of career there. And same with DeAndre Hopkins, those kind of guys. So they never really had too much on the offensive side. Their defense wasn't too bad given the situations that they were in. Special teams a bit of a mess. But I don't know. I think there are other coaches that should have been more on the hot seat. This one caught me a little off guard. What do you think?
Yeah, I had heard some rumblings, but I didn't think it was actually going to happen. And it's like, right. Look, 2 seasons ago, this was the number 1 seed in the stacked AFC. Like, Ryan Tannehill isn't even playing and has the second highest cap hit in the league. You traded away A.J. Brown and said, here's this Traylon Burks who sucked and the ghost of DeAndre Hopkins and 30-year-old Derrick Henry go win games as a defensive-minded coach. Like, they haven't given him a lot. When they did give him a roster that was talented, he led them to better than expected results.
It just goes to show you how fickle a lot of these ownership are, and it also goes to show you that the Titans that ownership group might be a little suspect, right? We talked about this a little on the last pod, where it's just like, you got to give these guys some room to lose a couple seasons or to, like you said, to regress after not providing him with the talent to maintain that level of excellence. And so to kind of find a scapegoat in the name of Mike Vrabel, but I'm not too worried. I think he will find himself a coaching job sooner than later.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot about when the Lions fired Jim Caldwell. So the Lions had Jim Caldwell, who I think he went 11-5, 9-7, 9-7, 7-9 in his seasons in Detroit. And that's 4-year stretch. That's a Detroit head coach. That's pretty fucking good for a Detroit head coach.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And after the 7-9 season, they fired him, brought in Matt Patricia, and just absolutely failed everything. And it's because they gave up on a coach that was good, who just had a down year, maybe needed a little bit of roster reconstruction, but the coach clearly knew what he was doing. You don't give up on those coaches, and I think that's what's going to happen with Tennessee, and I think they're going to be in for some suffering as a fan base because they gave up on a good coach, and guess what? You don't often get those.
Well, let's be honest. The Tennessee Titans are used to being a suffering fan base. This doesn't really change too much. The closest they got was Mike Jones, who making a tackle on the 1 or 2 yard lines to stop their Super Bowl dreams. So I think those in Nashville they'll find enough bourbon and country songs to drown away their sorrow. Let's be real.
They'll be fine. But so that's another coach.
Yep.
I think that's a coach that could get another job. a lot of people are saying if Belichick is gone, Vrabel to the Patriots is just like a
that makes a lot of sense. That's like a lock, right? That seems like a really good.
If Belichick is gone, I have to imagine he is the number one option for the New England Patriots. Just nothing makes more sense there.
I mean, but talk about cutthroat. I just can't see them cutting Bill. Next year, if he performs like this, he's gone. But yeah, we got to give it Hall of Famer.
We talked about this. We both agreed that they shouldn't cut Bill Belichick. Take away his GM duties, fine, but we think it would be a mistake to move on from Belichick, given his history. Either way, moving on, a couple of other news and notes that came along today. First of all, there's apparently a movement for a Matt Stafford jersey ban in Detroit. I'm going to let you talk about this first. I'm the Lions fan. I have opinions, but let's let you start.
Well, I mean, I'm torn a little bit because I imagine 80% of all Lions fans in the last 15, 20 years probably own a Stafford jersey. It's either that or Megatron, just because who else have you had to buy a jersey of?
Not wrong.
But honestly, I'm not too mad about that. I mean, you know what? He no longer plays for you. I'm not all about like burning his jersey like those punk-ass Cleveland Cavalier fans when LBJ went down to Miami. And then all of a sudden we're rocking him again when he came back into town. But hey, it's the playoffs. You guys are going up against each other. You are not friends today. So minimize the Stafford jerseys. I just think that means you got to be out there buying some new ones. A little Porta maybe. Gibbs, get behind some of these younger guys because those Stafford jerseys got a little dust on them anyways.
Yeah, like, let me be clear. I love Matt Stafford. I was ecstatic when he won the Super Bowl. I think almost the entire Detroit fan base is in that same boat. I understand where the fan movement's coming from. I don't totally agree with them being like, oh, he asked for a trade, like, fuck him. It's like, no, but I wouldn't wear my Matt Stafford jersey because it's like, for this 3 hours, we're enemies. I love you before, I love you after. I'll always remember what you did for the city and for the team, but like, yeah, we're against each other for this, and that's okay.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what's fun about fandom, right? It's fickle. We have the right to be fickle fans. We're not owners. We're not coaches. Our salaries are not, well, I mean, we spend much of our salaries on this, but at the end of the day, this is what we live for. This is the fun that keeps us going, right? And so don't burn the Stafford jerseys. Just keep them at home in the closet. I'm sure you'll bust them out when he enters the ring of fire or whatever you guys call it up there in Detroit when he gets his number retired.
Yeah. He'll get his number retired. He'll be in the Ring of Honor. Like, he might be a Hall of Famer. I don't know who he'll go in under, but Detroit's gonna claim him either way.
Yeah.
And then the last piece of news, and I hate talking about this, but Aaron Rodgers is in the news again for something not football related again.
I know he's almost like a little Travis Kelce-esque with this at this point. I blame the ayahuasca, man. Ever since he went down to South America and ate some cactus or whatever it was and shroomed his balls off, he has just been off his rocker a little bit. Now he's attacking Jimmy Kimmel and bringing in Jeffrey Epstein, which is already tricky territory, you know? Like, it's dicey out the gate when you start bringing up Epstein, unless it's like conspiracies about the fact that he definitely didn't kill himself. But when you start naming names and accusing people of being on the list and affiliated, that runs into pedophilia kind of territory, and that's a high crime to charge someone with that without some hard proof. So I'm firmly in Jimmy Kimmel's corner here. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's saying, oh, I never said that. I just said Jimmy Kimmel would be upset that the list came out, which it's like, okay, you're clearly insinuating that he either has affiliation with Jeffrey Epstein or is on the list and has something to hide. Come on, Aaron Rodgers. You're a great quarterback. Never take that away from you. I'm sure you're a wonderful teammate, and honestly, type of guy I'd probably love to have a beer with. I'll be real.
Yeah, for sure. It reminds me of a little Rashard Mendenhall-esque, where it's just look, I don't know really where you're going with this, but you're not really going to win a lot of fans on either side of the ball game here. Speaking of which, Rashard Mendenhall, there's a white cornerback entering the league, so watch out.
Maybe a first-round pick I saw. Wow.
I know. Wow. Jason Sehorn shaking in his boots. Thought he had that unlocked for the rest of eternity.
I don't even know who the hell that is.
That was my time.
Oh, yeah. Old man Rob over here. here. Either way, though, that's all the news. We're not going to get too deep into Aaron Rodgers or the politics. Just like, come on, Aaron. I'm not saying the classic shut up and dribble. Like, you can say what you want. You have that platform. But, like, let's not call people pedophiles with no evidence. That's all we're asking. That is all. That's it. That's it.
Then you can go, then dribble, talk politics, but just don't randomly accuse pedophiles that might not be pedophiles.
Exactly. That's all we're asking. That's it. Either way, let's move on to the playoff picture. This is what we really want to get into. The reason we split these episodes was so we actually had time to talk about each matchup in a little bit more detail, as opposed to just like some of the hot ones or like a quick thing on it. So let's get into it. And obviously we have the Ravens and 49ers, I think the clear favorites in both conferences on bye. But we'll start in the AFC. Browns at Texans. Rob, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, just to let's not overgloss the value of the bye, right? I do think the Ravens and the 49ers are both the best teams heading in, but also that bye is huge. That is a massive, massive advantage. And so that extra week of rest, 2 weeks actually, given the fact that they all played their fifth stringers last week, you get CMC back healthy, you get some of those defenders for the Ravens back healthy. I just want to harp on that real quick, that's a huge, huge advantage for those two teams. Heading into the Browns and Texans, man, I looked at this one probably closer than any of the others, and I won't get to my pick, but I don't think if anybody had this as a playoff matchup heading into the season, they're lying like Aaron Rodgers these days, because both of these teams were definitely on people's unders. The Texans had a rookie quarterback. I think they had the second, third overall pick this year. The Browns are the Browns, right? Like, no one is expecting Cleveland to do anything with the ghost of Deshaun Watson and whatever 5 quarterbacks they started this year, and maybe comeback player of the year, Joe Flacco. But here we are. The Browns defense has been the toughest unit by far in the league. They're just stingy. They have a defensive line. Their defensive backs are deep too. Joe Flacco is command of that offense out of the grocery market he was picked up in or whatever. I wanted to pick sorry. I wanted to pick against the Browns here, but hey, the AFC North was the toughest division for them to have that record out of that division, and I just think the Texans are too green, but they have flashes of brilliance. Can they continue? I'm not too sure. What do you think?
Yeah, like these two teams obviously played a couple weeks ago. The Browns in Houston, same as this. Browns won pretty handily. That was Joe Flacco already. Houston's one of the most fun stories in the league. Like, and let me be clear, if you are a Houston fan, this is not your Super Bowl. You have so many years ahead of you. D'Amico Ryans, rookie head coach. CJ Stroud, rookie. Tank Dell, rookie. Nico Collins, young guy. Will Anderson, rookie. Like, you have so many assets on this team. Like, you got to be absolutely ecstatic with where you are already, and you're just on a rocket ship up. Like, I can tell you right now, a lot of players out there probably looking at Houston and being like, hey, that might not be a bad free agent destination. Like, this is a team on the rise. Players, coach, and D'Amico Ryans. So, like, I think they're a very exciting team. The Browns have always been a little bit of, like, for lack of a better term, the jailbirds. They're like, hey, Chiefs are cutting Kareem Hunt. Come on down. Texans want to get rid of the misogynist, as I'll call him. Come on down. That's not a bad nickname for him, right? That's not a bad nickname.
Yeah, that's not too bad. And that's kind of Cleveland's like mentality as a city too. It's like, hey, you want to come to Cleveland? No one like actively goes, but like when they've hit rock bottom, they're like, you know what? Maybe Cleveland could be a somewhat decent place to bottom out.
Yeah. Like Joe Flacco, no one else in the league wanted him. Cleveland?
Right. But to your point about the Texans, though, I don't even think, I mean, yes, this isn't a Super Bowl. I don't think they're going to get too much farther, but this is a very winnable game for them. If you look at who you'd be wanting to go up against, I don't think they'd want to face the Steelers or the Bills or the Dolphins or Chiefs, right? I really think maybe the Steelers. I'm being a little homer there. But this is as good of a draw as you could possibly have asked for them to be playing at home against a tough team, but not necessarily an explosive team. So if they could come out and put some points on the board early and force Joe Flacco to make plays and to throw the ball deep, I think they have a chance in this game.
Yeah, because Joe Flacco's been very good. Not to take anything away from Joe Flacco. He's impressed everyone. But at the end of the day, Joe Flacco has not been that accurate since coming back. What he is, he's hit, like, it's been good offensive scheming. He's hit guys like Cooper and Njoku in stride who have had massive plays in, like, slants and dig routes and, like, corner routes. Like, not even just hitting him on crazy flies or anything. It's a lot of scheme. He's hitting the ball where he needs to. He's not making mistakes. He's being the Joe Flacco who won a Super Bowl. Let's be real. But yeah, this is a really good game. I mean, we'll obviously show all our picks on the screen in a little bit, but I did pick the Browns. I just trust that defense. I think Houston's a little green, but as you say, it's a winnable game for Houston at home. They did just see them a couple weeks ago. Maybe they have a good game plan in place now. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't put too much credit in that win by the Browns because there has been so much turnover for both teams, and the fact that sometimes it takes seeing a team once, getting your ass kicked a little bit, to come back and have their number the next time. You see that a lot in teams that lose both their games against a divisional opponent during the regular season and then win the third game of the playoffs. It's hard to beat a team multiple times.
Yep.
But let's move on then to
who do you have in that game?
Oh. I'm going to go with the AFC North Cleveland Browns. I hate picking the Browns in a money situation like the playoffs, but I just think they have the tenacity on that defense to keep C.J. Stroud, make him run around a little bit like Penix Jr. last night for Washington.
Okay, so let's move on to the Peacock special, the Dolphins at Chiefs.
Yeah, we waxed a little bit about Peacock. It's ridiculous, but we won't spend too much time here. Dolphins Chiefs. I mean, I think this is an exciting game for everyone. This is a rematch of, was it London or Frankfurt or Munich? Where did they play this year?
It was in Germany. It was Frankfurt. Or,
I think it might have been
Hamburg. It wasn't Munich. But
Hamburg. Yeah. It was Hamburg. One of these things. Look, it's Pat Mahomes in the playoffs versus a team that we know well and very well towards the end of the stretch does not beat good teams. That's the Miami Dolphins. Drew was a component of that early and often, and once I caught steam of that, we started making a lot of money shorting the Dolphins against good teams.
Yep.
The question is, are the Chiefs a good team anymore? Therein lies the rub.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are not what they used to be. Their defense is very good. Like, their defense should not be slept on. But obviously, the receiving room isn't there. Travis Kelce is not what he used to be. And that's not a knock on Kelce. He is 34 years old. And the fact that he's been doing what he's doing at 34 years old is incredibly impressive when you think of guys the same age, like Julio Jones and like all these guys, like Rob Gronkowski, who are out of the league.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got a lot on his plate off of the gridiron as well.
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I know the memes, and the memes are hilarious.
I know.
I think it's age.
It's age. But also it's like good fighters. Like when a good fighter reaches the pinnacle and has all the money and the wealth and the movie opportunities and the commercials, you lose the edge a little bit, right? There's hungrier guys that are out there. That comes with age. That comes with success, and that's what I meant a little bit. Why off the field with him, obviously the Tay thing is a big media darling. I just think the Chiefs are gonna take this because they're at home, and again, the Dolphins don't travel well and they lose to good teams. But I am concerned about their lack of playmaking at the wide receiver position. I think it's their biggest red flag. If they can just drill Pacheco up the gut of the Dolphins, who did lose an interior linebacker, Chubb, about 2 weeks ago, then I think they have this game wrapped up. But if they get in a position where the Dolphins come out and put 14 up on them, it's similar in what I'm feeling like the Texans need to do against the Browns. If the Dolphins can come out and punch them in the face and score a couple touchdowns and then force Mahomes to throw to people like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who literally has a highlight reel of Hall of Famers throwing him fingertip balls that he just drops, then I think they're in trouble.
Yeah, I have the Chiefs winning this. They won earlier in the season. It's in Arrowhead, one of the loudest stadiums in the league. Like that can't be forgotten. It's going to be super cold. It's supposed to be below freezing. Miami does not play well in the cold. The Chiefs are used to this. Like everything is going against the Dolphins. There's nothing, like, the only thing they have going for them is Tyreek Hill revenge game. But at the end of the day, like, Tyreek Hill can only do so much. We've seen him go off and them lose plenty of times this season. We also don't know the health of Jalen Waddle. There's so much going against the against the Dolphins. I just picked the Chiefs. We've also never seen Patrick Mahomes be knocked out earlier than overtime of the AFC Championship game.
Which is wild when you think about it.
That is wild.
And that's at the end of the day. Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's why I picked the Chiefs too. Because, like, I don't want to have money on, like, looking at Mike McDaniels looking like a history teacher out there, Tyreek pout face, Tua's like a little concussed. Like, this is an easy outcome for this team. And then meanwhile, Pat Mahomes doing Pat Mahomes things. And I'm like, why did I not put my money on him? Right. Yeah, so in this level, you just got to take Mahomes at this point until he proves you otherwise.
We brought up LeBron James briefly earlier. I'm going to bring him up again. It's almost like LeBron James in his last year in Cleveland, where it's like, oh, he's weak, he's done the whole season, and then it's just like, nah, I'm still going to the finals, fam.
Right, like, exactly. It's like, don't count him out at your own risk, right?
Exactly. So let's go to the last AFC matchup. I know you got a lot of skin in this game, and this is probably one of the few matchups that doesn't really have a great storyline, though I'm sure you're excited for it. That is the Steelers at the 2-seed Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, why don't you break this down first? Because obviously I'm going to be a little opinionated here. So let me hear your take on this before I launch into why the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win the game.
Well, I'm taking Buffalo. Let's start there. Everyone who's watched this knows I've been high on Buffalo all season, even when they were losing. But at the end of the day, they're on a 5-game win streak. They literally basically needed to go and win all those games to make sure they had a shot at the playoffs. They won it. They did it. They got the 2 seed out of left field. No one had them doing that midway through the year. Since they fired Ken Dorsey, they've been a phenomenally good team. They beat really good competition. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Eagles. They beat a lot of playoff teams in this run. This is a team I don't want to play. I think Josh Allen has what it takes. We've seen him in the playoffs light teams up before. The running game's working. They're getting some of their defenders back slowly and surely. Don't be surprised to see them just cakewalk this game.
I know. I'm a little worried about that too. We got to go up to Buffalo. Luckily, we're used to playing outside in the snow as well, so it's not like the Miami Dolphins or anything. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why you guys are 10.5-point favorites, the Bills here. But the Steelers this is the kind of team. Sorry, kind of game that we can win, honestly. Where it could be a cold, snowy day up in Buffalo. Defense is going to prevail. Hope to God TJ Watt is back, or in Allah, whichever one is in charge.
He's already ruled out. He's already
ruled out. Well, fuck. That's going to really...
You're like, do you want to change your pick? I will allow it right now.
No! I cannot change my pick. I have to stick to the steel, black and gold. At the end of the day, TJ Watt's our best offensive player because he puts us in positions to win games. He gets points on the board, so it'll be tough not having him. But hey, Mason Rudolph has not lost. So let's keep riding the Mason Rudolph train to a victory in Buffalo. This is a pure gut pick, obviously. We are running the ball well these days with Najee and Jalen as the 1-2 punch. If we can run the ball, stay tough, keep Allen contained. Besides Diggs, they don't really have too many other options at receiver. And I think we've been good at stopping the run all year long. So, fuck, not having TJ Watt's going to suck.
Here's what I will say. The Steelers are a great value pick. Why? Because the Steelers, no matter what, are basically a coin flip in most games. Yeah, it might be a little bit of a weighted coin, but at the end of the day, if you can get like plus 400 odds on the Steelers to win any football game, you should probably take it. Let's be real.
Right, exactly. Plus 10.5. Tease that up to like 17.5, 21.5. It's like we might lose this game, but I doubt we're gonna lose by more than 2 touchdowns. Yeah, that's my sneaky value pick.
Yeah, this is Steelers football. They don't go away quietly. Hence why they're
in the
playoffs somehow.
Right. Exactly. Another team that no one saw being here. But I think that wraps it up for the AFC.
Yep.
Let's go head over to your conference with your Detroit Lions, but we'll start with Eagles and Bucks. What are your thoughts? 5 versus the 4 seed Eagles on the road.
Do I have to watch this football game? That's my thoughts. Do I have to watch this?
It's probably the worst matchup for sure.
Yeah, the Eagles early in the season we thought were going to be like favorites, and the Buccaneers were looking like, ooh, somewhat frisky, somewhat fun. Both these teams are absolutely limping right now. The Buccaneers needed to beat the Panthers 9-0 to get into this seed. The Eagles have lost 5 of their last 6, including losses to the Giants and the Cardinals to end the season. And their one win was barely against the Giants. God, neither of these teams excites me. I have the Eagles winning, and it's not because I think the Eagles are good. This just seems to be what the Eagles do every year, though. Look at last year.
Right.
Last year, they got the 1 seed, they got to the playoffs, and then all of a sudden, what do they get? They got the fucking New York Giants, who somehow got to that point. And they thrashed them. Right. And then they got the QB-less 49ers. The Eagles just seem to win playoff games because nobody shows up on the other side.
Right. And then you have, and speaking of on the other side, it's pretty much Baker Mayfield, who seemed to have lost all his magic when he threw a perfect game over in Lambeau Field. Yep. And ever since then has just been absolutely atrocious. I think they beat, who was it, even before the Panthers, they beat someone else 13-10 or something the week before. So they have just been limping in. None of the guys on that team excite me, Antoine Winfield Jr., who got absolutely snubbed. And you have Mike Evans, who's a little old. Who's even running the ball for them?
Rashad
this
White.
Buccaneers team does. Yeah, okay, exactly. Does not excite me whatsoever. That being said, this Eagles team is absolutely a shit show, dumpster fire itself. So, but I just gotta believe that the experience and the talent of the Eagles somehow get it together to win this game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that team has discombobulated itself so quickly and so rapidly that it's a bit of a shocker.
I would take the Rams against the Eagles. I would take the Lions against the Eagles. I'd take the Cowboys against the Eagles. I'd take the 49ers against the Eagles. I would heavily consider taking the Packers against the Eagles. The only team I wouldn't take is the Buccaneers because it's
100%.
I know it's in Tampa, but still.
And let's be real. Why is it in Tampa? Because they won the sterling NFC South. Thank you for beating up on the Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers all year to win that home game, right?
Exactly. You did not earn that. You fell into
it. No, not at all.
But yeah, moving on, we got, I think, the most people's favorite storyline. It's the Rams visiting the Lions. Rob, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a, like you said, this is what the media, this is not what the media, this is what the NFL, Roger Goodell have scripted. The return of the Super Bowl champion, Matthew Stafford, and his Rams, who, again, I don't think a lot of people had in the playoffs this year. Nope. You have Puka Nacua, who is really neck and neck almost with CJ Stroud for Rookie of the Year if they give any considerations to non-quarterback positions. He's had a hell of a season. Reemergence of Cooper Kupp. Let's not underrate Kyron Williams, who is an absolute monster. He's running for 120 yards and a touchdown or two every game the last 5 or 6. That's going to be real trouble for your Lions. The one thing they don't have is a scrambling quarterback, which is, as we know, the Achilles heel of the Detroit Lions, who are a very young team. Let's not forget Goff at 29 is the oldest. And flip side of that coin, let's not forget that Goff took the Rams to a Super Bowl and lost there. So not only do we have Stanford's triumphant return, but we also have Goff going up against his old team, even though he is Cal trash. So like you said, there's a lot of storylines, a lot of young bucks, a lot of young coaches. What's not to like here? I'm taking the Lions. I just think the Rams have been a good storyline, but they're still missing a few pieces. And I think just it seems to be a bit of the Lions' year, even if that play call didn't really seem like it. But they got that out of their system. This will be a tough one in Detroit. So hopefully your young Lions can pick it together. If not, then Jared Goff is who we thought he was.
You see, this is the narrative I hate. This is the narrative I despise with this game. People basically are going into this game being like, oh, the winner of this game determines who won this trade. The winner of this game determines if, Jared Goff's very good. It's like, no. it's one game. Like, at the end of the day, the Lions are way ahead of schedule anyway. The Lions got Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Jamison Williams in exchange for Matt Stafford. Like, a pretty freaking good haul. We built our entire offense basically around it. Like, I love Stafford. I love Goff. I hope this is a great game. I hope we beat Stafford. If Stafford were to move on, I hope he wins another Super Bowl at the end of the day. Like, I love the man.
Yeah, he's a fun character. And when you put that lineup up, I was going to say the Rams won this trade already, right? They won a ring. Anytime you can trade for someone who gives you a ring in the next year or two. I think it was the year that they made the trade. That's a win. You cannot say it's not a win. If the Lions could then take that core and go to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl in the next 2, 3, even 4 years, that's another win. That's almost the definition of a win-win trade. You don't get a lot of those.
This is one of the already looking at this trade in hindsight, and we're not even well into the future. You look at this, it's like Matt Stafford's 35 years old. Matt Stafford was drafted in 2009. The only starting quarterbacks that are before Matt Stafford are Joe Flacco, who was only 1 year before Stafford. And we talk about how old Joe Flacco is. 1 year before Stafford, and Aaron Rodgers. Those are the only starting quarterbacks that have been in the league longer than Stafford. And so it's like you move on to a much younger quarterback. You get a lot of pieces that help you rebuild. You weren't going to do anything with Stafford. Stafford goes and wins a championship. Lions have accelerated their rebuild. This is 100% a win-win. Lions were not going to win with Stafford, period. So it's like the Lions have already won this trade. The Rams got a Super Bowl. They have already won this trade. This was a win-win. Right. That's not what this is about. This is just a fun, hey, let's get to see how these guys do on opposite sides. That's it.
Yeah. It's almost like those old Brady Manning games where they used to pit them against each other. It's like they weren't even on the field at the same time.
Yeah. It's like let's chill out on that narrative. It's fun, but it's not going to be determinant on who won that trade. They both won.
Compare that to, the Deshaun Watson trade to the Texans and come back and see me about a lopsided trade that is almost still.
That is, we don't know if it's a lose-lose or a win-lose, but there's certainly a loss in there.
There's a couple felonies, allegedly. Yes. All right, let's move over then to a game that historically and classically would be a very exciting game. I'm not feeling the heat this time around. Packers, Cowboys in Dallas.
You're not loving the return of the last Super Bowl head coach for the Packers, Mike McCarthy?
Oh, God, no, not really, honestly. I don't really care about him or Jerry Jones or the fucking Cowboys, Packers and their cold-ass tundra. If this game, I don't know, the Packers have just not been exciting. I've been awful at guessing the Packers all year long. I just don't know what's up with that team. Sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Jordan Love's whatever, dude. Aaron Jones is coming on a little bit, but all right, fine. I'm pretty sure CeeDee Lamb's going to torch him for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Tony Pollard won't get any because we know he doesn't score touchdowns. And I would love to see the Cowboys lose, honestly, because I like it when the Dallas fan base suffers and Jerry Jones looks like a little bitch on the sidelines. But I just think the Cowboys are going to handle business at home.
Yeah, I have the Cowboys winning this game too. I thought about the Packers. This is honestly the game I thought the most about going with an upset because I'll actually put all our picks now that we've said them all on the screen. And you'll also be able to see Vegas's. I literally copy-pasted Vegas's this week. And I don't like doing that. But every single one, I'm like, no, that's the pick. And this was the one I heavily considered being like, if I wanted to do an upset, this is probably the one I take. Because the Cowboys are that team that every time you start to believe in them, they disappear. Right. They're like Santa Claus.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. And I picked against them several times this year and lost because of that mentality. I thought they'd lose it, and then they kind of handled business. So maybe it's a different breed, but they could easily lose this game. You see my picks up there as well. If it wasn't for my Steeler fandom, I probably would have been chalk just like you in Vegas. The games again, like the only games I even really considered were like the Texans over the Browns, a little Bucks Eagles, and I didn't even really look at this one too much. I just that like I said, that Packer team doesn't inspire me, which means they'll probably go and overthrow the Cowboys.
Yeah, it would be interesting if they did. I don't. I'd be happy if they did because it means that the Lions, if were they to win, would get the Eagles or Buccaneers instead of the Cowboys, and I would take that.
Right, so. Right. But before we get into bookie best bets with Bookie Bob, and since we have our picks up, I wanted to play a little trivia. I've been doing some analysis on our picks throughout the season, and as we know, you've done better than me on the season. But I was curious to see, what teams are we good at picking, and what teams were we not good at picking throughout the year? Like sometimes you have a little bit of that. So I thought I was going to be good at picking. I felt like I picked the Chargers right all year long, and I thought I had picked the Falcons and Saints wrong all year. I couldn't figure those two teams out to save my life, and I felt like I just always nailed the Chargers. And then the Steelers, I was always like torn heart versus mind. And so I was curious to see how did we do, all right? So I did a little bit of calculus. So my best picks on the season, I picked the Patriots at 87%. Nailed the Pats somehow. I think I started shorting them every week after, I think, week one. I think after that Bills, once they beat the Bills, I was just like, you know what, this team's never win any other game. So I nailed them. And then the 49ers, Cardinals, and Chargers, I got at the same clip at about 83%. So I did really well with those four teams, which means that the teams that like both I did bad on a lot of teams and like below average on all the other teams. Like if you look at my spread chart, it's like a couple outliers that I did well on these teams here, and then absolutely tragic. So the team I was shit to bet on all year, the Texans, 33%. I got their games right a third of the time.
Okay, so what you're saying is I should change my pick to the Texans based on this playoff.
Yeah. We'll get to yours in a second. And then the Packers, who I just explained that I've been bad at, I got 40% on them. And then both the Falcons, Saints, and Titans were at 47% for me. So I was also very bad at those teams as well. And overall, most of my picks floated right around 50%. But I couldn't get it right all year long. And these teams in particular were enigmas to me and still are. The Texans, the Packers, the Falcons, the Saints. And the Titans were in that AFC South, which was clearly tricky, right? I was getting those wrong all year long. So those are fun. And as for my Steelers, 67%. So that's about right. I'll take about 2/3. That's like a third of like, oh, you got to give. They're not going to win them all, so you got to pick a couple games here and there. So I thought that was fun. And so for those watching at home, Drew has not seen the calculus on his picks. So we're going to do a little trivia here and see what Drew think he picked best, who he thought he picked the worst, and how he thinks he did on his old Detroit Lions.
Yeah, so I think I picked really well because the 49ers had a good record. I'm pretty sure I never picked against the 49ers all season. So I'm going to say I did pretty well on the 49ers. Because I've rode that train all year. I have said from the start, this is a fucking good team. And I said similar things about the Ravens. I think I was picking them early, and then I realized how good they were. I would have picked them wrong when they played the Lions, because I probably was like, Lions. But other than that, I think I picked the Ravens pretty well as well.
All right. Well, the team that you actually did the best on is a team that you convinced me of with your logic. Your best team was the Miami Dolphins at 81%.
That I believe that I got the Dolphins right a lot, because when everyone was hot on them, I was like, no, we got to sell them. It's a good team.
Yeah, exactly. You like knew when to pick your spots with the Dolphins, and that showed with a whopping 81%. And then the team above the 49ers, who were your third best team, was actually the Carolina Panthers. You just picked against them all week. Yeah, you got 80.
I just knew they were bad
on the Panthers.
Bad.
Exactly. So you did well there. Niners at 75, and you round out your top four with the Seahawks at around 73%.
Okay.
Now let's jump over to
teams I wouldn't have known.
The teams you did bad on all year. Yeah.
I feel like I got burned by the Eagles a lot because I think I was picking against them a bit early, and I think I started picking more for them late, and I know they'd have the opposite season, so I think the Eagles burned me pretty bad. I'm guessing the Browns early season, I was picking against them a lot. I think they burned me quite a number of times. And then the one I'm not sold on, it could be really good, it also could be bad, is the Arizona Cardinals. Because I picked them as the frisky winners a lot this season. I was very high on, because and the Cardinals did it a few times. Let's be clear, they beat the Eagles, they beat the Cowboys, they beat some good teams, but there was a bunch of times I'm just like, I need an upset. Cardinals.
Right. Yeah, you did seem to pick those, but that's not your worst team. In fact, you knew your worst team all along, because every week you talk about how you never knew how to pick them.
The Steelers?
Pittsburgh Steelers, 33%.
yeah. I said the whole season, it's a coin flip. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just throwing fucking darts.
Well, yeah, you won a third of your Steelers picks at 33%. The next up was another team that me and you split all the time. The Bengals tied with the Texans at 38% for you.
Yeah.
So both of us were bad on the Texans all year. The Bengals, we couldn't decide. We were never in favor. You seemed to get them wrong. And then rounding out your sub 50% were the lovely trio of the Broncos, Packers, and Titans at 44%.
Okay, so that's interesting. What I find interesting about that, because I had I was a decent bit above you in percentage-wise, but my worst were lower than your worst. My best were lower than your best. But I'm guessing my average, my middle ground was much better than your middle ground.
Exactly. Your bell curve it's real steep and shifted over. You know what I mean? Whereas mine's just mine was a roller coaster. Yeah, but that's a good. And then how about your Detroit Lions? How'd you do?
Lions. I think I can literally calculate this because we missed 1 week where they won. I picked against them last week thinking there might be some shenanigans. But other than that, I was right. So take away 2 games. They went 12-5, so 10-5, 66% is my guess.
69%.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. So pretty close and nice, doubly nice, right? So we're pretty even on our home teams, on our personal favorites there, right in that 67-69% range. But that was a fun little deep dive into the season. So keep that in mind as we look ahead to our playoff picks. But let's bring us officially to best bets with Bookie Bob. As you know, scared money don't make no money. We don't stop. We don't rest when we come to the playoffs. In fact, we double down. Your boy Uncle Bob, he put $5, and I don't even like this bet already, but I just fucking Cowboys and Eagles. They should win, right? Plus 106, $5. I know, I picked the Eagles. They've been burning us down the stretch here, but I just got to believe that they're not going to lose to Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers, and that's how I feel about the Cowboys at home. These two teams have the talent to win these games, and I trust them more than the Browns versus the Texans or any of that nonsense. So I'm taking what I think are 2 of the best teams in the NFC, and hopefully they can prove it.
Yeah,
I don't think the Eagles are 2 of the best teams, but yeah, you know what I mean.
I did similar, but a little bit more aggressive. I literally just took my 6 picks, parlayed them, $5 money line plus 878. That's all we did. It's just I said it. It's Browns, Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, Lions, Cowboys, 6-game parlay.
And you know all the favorites never win, so you're fucked.
I might be.
But this could be the year. So we'll see.
Every single one of these games falls into the narrative I've been saying all year. But clearly, what I've learned from your data analysis, the fact that neither of us can pick the Texans and we both picked against them, is that congratulations, Texans, you're moving on to the next round.
Yeah, I almost guarantee that they're going to beat the Broncos now. I might have to throw some money on that just to get my Uncle Bob stank on it so that it'll go back the right direction.
Exactly. Oh, well. Well, anything else you want to go over there, Uncle Bob?
No, that's it, man. Let's go Steelers. As always, you heard it here first. Fuck the Bills.
No, we got the Bills. I will have my Bills jersey on, my red Josh Allen jersey that looks orange on camera. While watching that game. But either way, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the second episode. Again, a little bit of a longer one here, but we wanted to go into each of the matchups in detail. Next week, we'll be back doing the same thing for the divisional round, while also doing a quick recap of what happened this week. Maybe a little bit of a longer episode again, but that's okay. It's the playoffs. It's way more fun now anyway. Either way, guys, that's it.
We're running out of time.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Have a great time, and hopefully you enjoyed the Super Wildcard weekend. Later.
Peace.